Welcome back. I thought I'd wrap things up this year by telling you a really scary story. Yeah, so I've turned down the lights in the studio and I just got a little moonlight coming in. This is a true story, a story of Halloween. And how do I know it's true? Because I was there. This was something I witnessed many Halloweens ago when I was a little kid. It's a story I call the Pumpkin Smasher. As I recall, Halloween was fast approaching. It was only several days away, and we kids were all excited, the way kids get for Halloween. One of the things we did was get our pumpkins and plan how to carve them and try to make the best jack-o'-lanterns we could. These jack-o'-lanterns were set on the porch a few days before Halloween itself, so everybody could admire our handiwork. But then, several days before Halloween, something happened. Something that struck terror into the hearts of all us kids. The horror began with our friend Eggy Forrester. He got up and got ready for school that day, just like any other day. It was a beautiful day with blue skies and gorgeous autumn leaves everywhere. He had his breakfast and then set forth to go to school. But as he came down the steps of his front porch, he felt something was wrong. Something was missing. He looked back towards the house, and sure enough, his jack-o'-lantern, which he had placed outside, as all his kids did, was gone. He looked around in panic, but maybe his dad had moved it, fearing it was a trip hazard or something. But he looked around, he couldn't find it, and he didn't have much time. He had to get to school, so he headed down the walkway, just looking back over his shoulder, trying to see if he could find his jack-o'-lantern. But he needn't have bothered, because as soon as he got out on the sidewalk, he found his jack-o'-lantern. It had been smashed. When Eggy got to school, we could see he was really upset, but we couldn't get anything out of him until recess, when all us kids could gather together. And then he told us the tale that someone had smashed his jack-o'-lantern. We were shocked and outraged. You see, there are rules when it comes to smashing jack-o'-lanterns that aren't your own. You gotta wait until Halloween night, after all the trick-or-treaters have done their trips around town and had gone home. And then, unless there was a party going on at the house, well, jack-o'-lantern left alone in the late hours was fair game to grab and smash. But Eggy's jack-o'-lantern had been smashed long before Halloween, and that was wrong. We all went home hoping it was a one-off thing. Maybe some big kid just decided to be a jerk, but in our hearts, we felt a clinging dread. The next day, Bobby Jasperson came to school, all upset. Someone had smashed his jack-o'-lantern that night. Fear and terror gripped all us little kids. We weren't sure what to do. I mean, it was Halloween time, and having your jack-o'-lantern on the front porch, well, that's just tradition. And then, the next day, Rusty Matthews and Greg Hawkins both found their pumpkins smashed. on the sidewalk. Well, we knew we had to take action. We knew we had to take our pumpkins inside at night. But some parents didn't want them inside because they were afraid to draw fruit flies or stink up the place. But we had to do something. Me, I could put my pumpkin in the garage because it was locked at night. Well, it was the night before Halloween, and I'd been putting my pumpkin away for the last few nights. But that night, I forgot. I was watching Halloween specials on TV, and I forgot to put my pumpkin away. When I came outside, I saw it was gone and thought, oh yeah, it's just in the garage, but then I realized I hadn't put it there. And sure enough, on the sidewalk in front of our house was my jack-o'-lantern, smashed. But this time things were different, because this time I spotted a clue that the pumpkin smasher had left behind. When they smashed my jack-o'-lantern, it didn't break into a whole bunch of pieces. It just kind of broke in half. That was obvious. So the pumpkin smasher had to stomp on it to make sure it was all broken up and everything. And that's when I could make out a footprint in the pumpkin goo. And trailing off down the street, a little ways I could see traces of orange pumpkin. And they led to a particular house. And then everything fell into place, because the house it led to was the house of Clarice the cat. It made total sense. Clarice the cat didn't care about the rules or proprieties of pumpkin smashing. No, she hated us kids, and we hated her, because she was always hassling us, and she was a cat. Blech. Every year, we had prided ourselves on swiping her pumpkin and smashing it. So apparently, she decided to take matters into her own hands this year and preemptively smash our jack-o'-lanterns. Clarice had really outdone herself decorating her house that year. She had corn husks and decorations all around, and up on the roof of her porch, she had a plywood cutout of a witch on a broom, which was painted, so you could see it was a witch. And then, on her porch, she had one of the biggest jack-o'-lanterns you ever saw. It was huge, and we kids knew we needed to smash that jack-o'-lantern. But unlike Clarice the cat, we kids would play by the rules and wait until Halloween night to smash her giant jack-o'-lantern. Well, Halloween dawned, and we kids were all in anticipation for trick-or-treating, but of course, there was an edge, an uneasiness that we had never felt before, because we knew there was grim work ahead that night. We made our rounds, trick-or-treating, and gathered a lot of candy. When we had finished trick-or-treating, we gathered and prepared for action. We waited in Mrs. Collingwood's yard, behind the bushes there where we couldn't be seen. And we waited until all the other trick-or-treaters had gone away, and porch lights went off up and down the street. Trick-or-treating was over. We waited, and we waited in the cold October night, because it wouldn't be good for all of us kids to rush into Clarice the cat's yard. One kid had to go. Rusty designated himself. He was that mad about his jack-o'-lantern. And then, when we deemed it was safe, Rusty crossed the street, and he went into Clarice the cat's yard. Inside the picket fence, he went up the walkway. But he didn't go on the porch, no. he stepped aside real fast. He grabbed hold of the jack-o'-lantern, picked it up, and turned to run, but there was a cord attached to it. And suddenly, alarms started going off. Whoop, 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 whoop. And big floodlights came on. Whoop, 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 whoop. In a panic, Rusty tried to flee, but the cord attached to the pumpkin, it was so strong. And he just yanked and yanked on that pumpkin. And then suddenly, as we all watched in horror, the witch up there on the roof of the porch, it swung upward like a garage door, and behind it was a big water trough which promptly tipped over, and its contents deluged down on Rusty. And that water was cold because it was October. All this because he had pulled on the cord that set the whole thing off, and the alarms were going whoop, whoop, whoop. But Rusty wouldn't be stopped. He took hold of that jack-o'-lantern, and he pulled as hard as he could, and the cord let go, and he landed on his ass. And then he got up, and he started running, and he kept looking behind him, and the alarms were going off, whoop, whoop, whoop. And he ran into the side of the picket fence and fell on his ass again, but he picked that pumpkin up, and he ran out to the sidewalk, lifted it over his head, and with every erg of strength at his command, he hurled that jack-o'-lantern down at the sidewalk. And it bounced. It sounded like a basketball. You know, it went kapoomph, and it bounced. As we all watched in horror, undaunted, Rusty ran up and jumped on that pumpkin with both feet, and he promptly sprang back and landed on his ass again. It turns out the pumpkin was made out of rubber. It was a fake jack-o'-lantern. It wasn't even real. Well, then the floodlights went off, and the alarms stopped blaring, and Rusty, he ran over to us, and then the most horrible thing of all, in the eerie silence, we heard a sound. The creepy, mocking laughter of Clarice the cat. She had been watching out the window the whole time. Well, all we could do then was go home. Rusty was soaked to the skin, and he wasn't in school the next day because he caught a chill and had a cold. He didn't get pneumonia, but he might have done. And we kids swore a grim vow that next Halloween we'd get even with Clarice the cat. There you go. Boy, that was a terrifying story, wasn't it? Oh, it was terrifying. Terrifying. That water came down. Oh, man, it's a good thing it was just water and not something else, I tell you. I don't know. It was terrifying. Horrible. Oh.